Welcome to Brothers Cast. I am effectively your host, Wasabi, and joining me today is the lovely Schmeat. How you doing, Schmeat?
Oh, fan-fucking-tastic there, Wasabi. How are you doing?
I'm tired, chilling, doing pretty good. I want things to go back to normal, but you know, it is what it is.
I got you.
I'm over medical school. I'm done. I'm exhausted.
How much longer do you have?
Well, I was supposed to graduate in June, but because of everything, they pushed it back to December. So we'll have to see.
That sucks, bro. So what are you graduating and then doing?
So I'm going to be graduating as a radiologist or X-ray tech that specializes in basically general radiology and then fluoroscopy. Depending,
That's cool.
But my fluoroscopy thing is going to be a little bit different. And California was actually pretty legit with like their radiology protocols, because like they were basically like, if you were going to graduate as an X-ray as an X-ray tech, then you had to get your fluoro license in California, which you can actually get pretty cheap here in comparison. So like, if I should take one quick test and then bam, I could do fluoroscopy, and you automatically get like $5 more an hour kind of thing, which is pretty cool.
That's really cool, bro.
Yeah, and then it's really good because there's a lot of basically every single hospital has fluoroscopy, so it gives you better job mobility.
Most hospitals would have to do that, have any type of
radiology,
would have to have fluoroscopy, wouldn't they?
Actually,
cool. Like MRIs and imaging, that also does all fluoroscopy and everything in general. So
partially, it depends on what kind of hospital you go to too, because like every hospital's weird. Like some learning hospitals are pretty general. A lot of trauma hospitals do like fusion imaging too. So like they'll mix like nuclear medicine and CT, and that gets pretty fucking wild. You ever see like it's kind of funny because I'm a bit of a nerd sometimes, but like because I'm fascinated by radiation, because nuke med is basically like just having a patient swallow like a radioisotope and then
then you measure it, yeah,
and then you just like, oh, just look at them glow. I'm just kidding, but like,
well, it is, yeah.
and
I'm not the most like familiar with nuke med, but like I'm a rad contact with my base training and experience, so I understand a lot of the rest. So like I know people that went from my job to be basically rad techs at hospitals for the nuke med department. So
it's pretty cool, and like, I mean, I don't know how to really. It's just funny because like I've sat through a couple of exams at Sharp, and like they're pretty cool, but it's just like it's not what you think sometimes. Like one of them was basically just imaging the physiology of like part of his lymphatic of a patient's lymphatic system.
Yeah,
and, like it was literally just like, oh, I got this lead box, I'm gonna inject you with 4 things, and the guy was just like, all right, cool. And he just waited in the lobby while he's just like emitting radiation. So I'm just like, that's awesome.
Is insane, yeah.
But like it was such a low dose that it didn't even matter. So I was just like, all right. Whatever.
Well, I mean, it takes such a large dose anyway for you to have any kind of negative side effects that it's actually ridiculous.
That is true. And like it took a while. It takes a while for it actually to travel through his actual physiology. So like from the place that he was gonna go to before it actually, it's crazy too. Like I was reading and learning about nuke med, and it's just like, yeah, they figured out some radioisotopes that like actually bypass like healthy tissue. So like it'll go straight to the actual pathological area that is like in need of imaging, and it's crazy what they're doing now, man. I'm telling you. Just like,
oh no, yeah, it's awesome. Like if the world wasn't so absolutely insane, I would try and stay in the nuclear field. It's like I am, still getting a degree in it just because it was only a couple extra classes at this point, but nuclear and all of the kind of stuff that you can do with radiation, and then nuclear power and all that kind of stuff is just absolutely makes my nerd boner pop real hard.
Gotcha.
Because I am a total geek when it comes to that stuff. But it's absolutely amazing, especially when, you know, like the possible predicted efficiencies and outcomes, or if we could like figure out fission or a fusion. Nuclear fusion would be insane source of energy, and it's just cray. But we'll, you know, with everybody deciding that they don't like nuclear power anymore for some goddamn reason.
I think people just have convinced themselves of, you know, the sun and solar. I don't know.
Well, I mean, all that is inefficient nuclear power.
Which is why I'm just like, it's we literally have like the power of the atom at this point. Like, we can just, come on, like, what are we doing, people? Like,
well, I mean, it's insane. I think it's a cross, but it's one of those things where, you know, how people's good intentions can get taken advantage of. Well, so one of the things that we always see is that, you know, people care about the environment, which is cool. Care about climate change. That's cool. You know, we shouldn't be spewing out, you know, chemicals and bad shit into the atmosphere. That's the air we breathe.
Yeah.
You know, we're especially when we're going to start getting more and more heavy populated, and in the next 100 years, we're going to start seeing, you know, water wars and water shortages and stuff like that. I don't know if you're ready for that, but it's coming. Like the the aquifer that feeds all of like the Great Plains in America has gone down to like 25% capacity because they're out farming the natural water cycle by that much.
That's
so
great.
You know, just get ready. Like, and there's probably going to be a big war that pops off between Sudan and Ethiopia, because Egypt, or it might be Egypt and Sudan, but one of those countries, I'm pretty sure it's Sudan, is creating a massive hydro dam on one of the parts of the Nile that feeds into the country below it. That when they do that, it's going to cause a massive water supply shortage and degradation of the farmland for the country next to it.
Jesus.
And they're already almost at blows over, because the hydro dam's almost, which is being paid for by China, is almost complete already. Yeah,
that's not worrisome at all.
No, not at all. When, you know, if we were smart, we'd be using nuclear power. But then that goes to my old point. In America, it seems like the only thing that we ever hear talk about is, oh, wind and solar, when, you know, in reality, hydro and nuclear are more efficient and possibly better for the environment, because they don't need a whole bunch of constantly replaceable large pieces of machinery that are not very efficient and reliant on conditions that can't be guaranteed. Right. And then you look even further, and it's basically the people that make solar panels and wind turbines, it's a monopoly. So I feel like there's some kind of lobbying effort by those people to just make the people pushing the narrative be like, only wind and solar, because even a lot of scientists that don't get, you know, ones that don't get listened to, go, yeah, wind, solar, and nuclear, guys, and nuclear gets, you know, cut off. Because nuclear power, especially, you know, like SMTs, so like small modular reactors, or SMRs, whichever one they go by now, in my opinion, is logically the future. Because when you do it correctly, when you do nuclear power correctly, and, you know, you're not the Russians, and it's not a new emergent technology, it's safe. Like, there's actually less deaths per kilowatt hour generated for nuclear than any other method of generation at this point.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, it is crazy. And, you know, even though I'm slightly biased because I'm in the nuclear field, and I would love it to expand so I can get a nice, cushy, high-paying job training people somewhere.
Of course.
I would still believe that logically anyway, because of how good nuclear is.
It's a win-win, honestly. I mean, I don't even know how to. I mean, clean for the environment, renewable, like, just it boggles the mind sometimes about why we just don't do the logical thing, you know?
Because of emotions. People, when they hear nuclear power, they think of Chernobyl and other things that the Soviets and those damn commie bastards ruined for the rest of the world.
Bastards. It's a great what if. What if Chernobyl never happened? Dun dun dun.
Well, I mean, it's one of my favorite theoretical pieces of history, because it's what if Germany had won World War One back when it was good Germany, right? Because if they had, they would not have let there be the communists take power in Russia right next door to them. They would not have, which would then not have resulted in a whole lot of things. And, it's even funnier. So one of the things that was proposed around the time of World War One was a European style development of public health infrastructure that Teddy Roosevelt actually was behind and was pushing for. And it was very popular until the communists took over in Russia. And then they kind of became like this because of all the atrocities and all the deaths and the French Revolution brought into the 20th century.
Yeah.
It became like a big, scary no-no. And now you have the colossal waste of what we have as a system now, which is this super weird oligopoly that is just stupid.
Yeah, America's weird. Every other country is weird.
No, I mean, like I'm not one that's like really big and for, massive state-owned social healthcare systems. But I will say there is a bit of an advantage when you have some level of infrastructure. Because it's funny, the countries with the best ran ones out in Europe still have forms of insurance that they sell for like basically day-to-day operations where they pretty much only pay for, oh, you just got hit by a car, or oh, you just broke your arm, emergency style stuff, type of thing. So I could it's the whole healthcare conversation is really stupid, where I'm one of those people that if the state wanted to try and implement something where they have state funded hospitals in areas where people are low income and might not have the best insurance, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But I don't understand why people want to jump to the federal government to do it.
They just don't know, or they don't care. They just want things to be,
they think it should be the federal government. Because what if people from a different state come to take our health insurance? It's like, you mean like people illegally crossing the border do? Bro, if I made that same argument, you'd call me a racist.
I know. It's just funny because I don't know, most arguments that people on the left always make, if you just the whole border crisis and just illegal immigration is kind of just some arguments out here will basically come down to well, I mean, they do pay some taxes. They don't pay the income tax or yada yada kind of tax. And I'm just like, okay, sure. I'll give you that. It's not like they don't completely not pay anything in taxes, but at the same time, it's they're going to take a job away from someone, who's not a very skilled labor kind of person. They're going to be.
Well, I mean, it's just insane because you could almost say that the positions swap, because it's only the very far right and the very far left that economically speaking, that benefit from mass immigration. Because it's mass immigration, when you look at it from an economic standpoint, is only good for corporations and big business, because they, at the lowest level, they have very, very cheap unskilled labor. or even very cheap, moderately skilled labor, because the supply of workers is huge. And that's, very much like a libertarian, far-right economic, like, yeah, help big business, woo. And then on the super far left, on your social communist standards, like, that was a tactic that the Bolsheviks created to try and go spread, that they wanted to see people do to spread socialism and communism to the rest of the West, was to create unfettered immigration from third world countries, because it would destabilize all the social safety net systems. That was it was either Lenin or Trotsky's writings, to say, this is part of our plans to spread it to the rest of Europe. Right, because when you bring people in, it destabilizes wages. It destabilizes, creates more outputs and inputs on the social safety net systems that operate in concert with a relatively, a market economy, and can work well. And that's why you see nations like that still have a good market economy, but don't have have the social safety net systems that are like not in the EU but in the European trading bloc of, like, Sweden, Norway,
the Federation, whatever I call it, kind of thing.
Yeah, Finland, Denmark, like the Scandinavian places that don't allow lots and lots of unfettered immigration even from the EU, and they still have managed to balance their system, where all these other countries there are rapidly falling apart because they can't control immigration, because the counter to controlling immigration is just calling everybody racist, which you see happening in, the UK is a great example, and it's pretty funny because, like, the French recently recognized that, oh yeah, no, this shit sucks, but every time we try and do something about it, this whole critical race theory bullshit, it gets thrown at us. So they went to be like, yeah, hey, you know what, French schools, you're not allowed to teach critical race theory anymore. That's a crazy American thing that doesn't work here. You guys shut the fuck up.
So they stopped teaching it in their school systems.
Oh yeah. There was I think we talked about it last time a little bit, but yeah, Macron and his people came out and were like, no, this shit won't work, because it even stops the functioning things that the left wants to do from being able to be done. Because unless you go full send stupid, the people will just wield the, oh, you're just racist, with the logic of critical race theory at you, like a cudgel, to try and get you to do what you want. I mean, we see it now in America, of just how degradatory that has been to our discourse and everything, where you can't have a functioning conversation, because these are people that managed to, and they've convinced a good chunk of the media to be like this, where it doesn't matter if what you're saying is actually racist or not. If you don't agree with the people who, in my opinion, are actually very racist, it's, they're just like, instead of it being like, oh, you suck, fuck you, it's, oh, you suck, but we're gonna try and help you, is the way that these fucking rich white suburbanite college students are towards minorities. They are just it's insane. So, but yeah, the French realized, like, okay, all this stuff, which is funny because it's all based in postmodernism, which came from France. And they're like, yeah, no, this stuff from American universities, yeah, shut it down. We're not doing it here. And I'm like, oh God, why are the French? It's super funny because the French are the ones that are being the most logical with it, and then it's the Russians that have the most, like, free speech tech places on the planet right now, because they're the ones that are still willing to host people like Parler and shit like that.
God, that's what a weird world, man. Jeez.
Yeah, it's hilarious, and I'm like, honey, we might be learning Russian soon. It's a joke. I would never move to Russia. Fuck the commies, but it's getting absolutely insane. I think I'm taking on the accelerationism mindset of like there's the only way that these people can be stopped is if they just go so insane that everybody stops listening to them.
That's the only way. At this
because because now like there are some places where they've gone full send and Asians, because Asians are a model minority that leads to white supremacists, so they're no longer people of color. I just see that and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, shut
What's going
up.
on, brother?
Okay, hey, come. Oh god, I was about to say say something that was probably really racist as a joke, but I don't want to get us kicked off of YouTube.
I don't care.
But you could just imagine, the dude in the Klan hood going into the Asian neighborhood and going, you guys aren't half bad, yeah, because that's totally what would happen.
Got like the shrimp fried rice. Shrimp fried rice with some.
That kimchi ain't that bad. Hey, we should go hang out in Chinatown.
Anytime.
They're part right.
We eat some cornbread or we eat some ham sandwiches. Oh,
well, I mean, if we're going into you remember that old Chappelle skit about the racial draft?
That was beautiful. Love that.
I mean, if we've broken it down into teams of everybody versus Whitey, apparently Whitey in the last few months has picked up both Cubans and Asians. So I guess our team is getting better and more diverse.
Gonna have a really kick-ass baseball team. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah. Oh, totally. We won't win at basketball, but
no.
We'll win a couple math Olympics. We will.
I'm down for that. What were we talking about? Were we supposed to be talking about like electric cars? Oh, we got a kid break for a second.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, our sponsor is
electric cars. Today's sponsor, Ford Mustang Mach-E.
Ooh.
Oh man, I like the Mustang Mach-E. Because I'm just glad that other car manufacturers are trying to get into the EV game.
Interesting. Okay.
But it's super funny because a lot of people I work with, they get triggered whenever they hear the words Mustang Mach-E because they're like, it's not a Mustang, and I'm like, no, it's a fucking crossover, dude. Like, get over it. But it's a Mustang. It's not a Mustang. So whatever, it's fucking cool.
So I'm very like I have no idea or anything about cars. I'm very car illiterate. So the Mustang is coming out with their own interpretation of an electric car that's a Mustang, or
it's already out. Yeah, look up it's Mustang Mach-E.
Okay, hang on one second.
It's kind of a competitor to the Model Y of Tesla.
Mustang Model E?
Yeah, no, just Mustang Mach-E, like
Mach
5, but Mach-E.
Oh, there we go. What is this? Oh my god. So it's not a Mustang technically, or is it?
If you look at the front end, it's Mustang-y, but it's a crossover.
Okay, that's why I was like really confused. Now I'm just looking at it. I don't know how I feel about it. It's interesting.
I mean, personally, I like it, but I'm also super nerdy about electric cars.
That's fair.
And I want more electric cars to be out there, and I'm glad, you're starting to see Volkswagen get into it. Chevy is getting into it. Toyota is just announced their full electric RAV4 competitor today. And I'm not a big hybrid person because I think hybrids are stupid, but I really like the electric cars because they perform very, very well. The only thing you have to worry about with electric cars is is range, but I'm also one of those people that like, I think if you want to afford an electric car, you could totally get a 240 volt connector put in your house and just charge the bitch pretty good every night overnight, and then you'd never have to worry about going to the gas station. And then as the technology grows, you can already get like almost anywhere in the North American continent outside of like one super remote place in where is it? Canada, on the Tesla supercharger system. And there's these other big companies that are making that, you know, going in and installing and selling and basically franchising charging stations for the non-supercharger, for the non-Teslas, and you can get most places with them. So like the road trips kind of suck. Yeah, I mean you can only really feasibly do it in Teslas right now, but we're still at the stage where like, you can get your daily driver in one of these electric cars, charge it every day at your house, and then go get a freaking and then keep your old gas car if you need to do much longer trips and you're worried about not being able to complete, about the range on electric cars.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they've also got, have you seen the, like, Hummer replace their Hummer lineup with electric Hummers? Have you seen that?
What? No.
Yeah. Look up the, now let me just send you a link to it. But the Hummer EV, they've got an SUV and they've got a truck. Here, I'm putting it in the doohickey. But check these out.
All right. Electric Hummers.
And these things are having pretty dang good range. Very, very powerful.
I think it's just ironic because, like I think it's ironic. Like the last car I would have expected to, and it's technically like fuel efficient. I'm kidding.
In certain aspects, yeah. But I look at it, and if they weren't over $100,000,
Jesus,
I would be buying one of the Hummer trucks most likely.
Dude, that's wild.
But it'd be hilarious to buy the big Hummer SUV and like be like, bitch, it's an electric car. Shit talk me now, motherfucker. Like, what do you got? Oh, it's big, which means I got a little dick. No, it's big, and I'm supporting saving the environment, bro.
Boom, 2021, homie.
Yeah, but the SUV and the truck on them, they're really cool, and I love seeing the technology advance out. I'm waiting for them to come out with conversion kits for you to be able to turn your old gas car into an electric car. Like, here's the conversion kit for, Jeep Wranglers. And you see all the people with their lifted Jeeps, and now all of a sudden they're battery powered. Like, that'd be awesome.
The future is now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now that you have like a Hummer the size of the old H2s as the fucking EV, like, yeah, that's awesome.
Can you imagine? Like, I don't think we would have thought about stuff like this, like, even like a decade ago. This was wild.
I kind of figured it would happen.
Something along the lines of this. Anything else about electric cars you want to talk about other than that just keep blowing my mind?
Oh man, they're so awesome. I'm a giant electric car nerd, but I think it's super funny some of the stuff. Like, did you see? Okay, this goes back into connections with politics. Recently, Nancy Pelosi got in trouble for potentially insider trading because she bought like a bunch of Tesla stock, knowing that they were here in like the near future. The government is going to pass something to replace all of the government's cars with electric vehicles. And the biggest manufacturer of electric vehicles right now with the most reliable charging systems is Tesla. It's like, oh, that's not insider trading. Not at all. And then you had her recently buy like $10 million of freaking, what was it, Microsoft stock, for then like 2 weeks later the government to sign a contract with a multi-billion-dollar contract with Microsoft for some defense project for the next over the next 10 years. It's like, oh yeah, that's not insider trading. Oh geez, this chick keeps getting reelected too, huh?
Yep.
I just love the irony of these, of like a lot of people in our generation and a lot of people on the left still hold on to the Republicans are corrupt and just love the rich, and the media feeds into it, and it's like, yeah, but you guys have ignored all of the corruption that's going on your side, that it's getting so bad that your Speaker of the House is buying $10 million of shares of Microsoft 2 weeks before them signing a multi-billion-dollar government contract.
Didn't even seem like they were trying to hide it either. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna buy it.
And like, and it was under Obama when they basically gave themselves full immunity from insider trading laws regarding that shit.
Obama.
Yeah, and I just sit here and I'm like, this is absolutely, like, this is why I can't support you guys. But it's absolutely hilarious that it's like, oh, let's get money out of politics, but then it's like, just get the Koch brothers out, but we have no problem when these massive multi-billion-dollar corporations use all of their power to help our politicians, because that's not the same thing.
The leaps and bounds they make. I don't know. I'm so disgusted with all of that, to be honest with you.
Oh, I am too.
So slimy.
Well, I'm one of the people that thinks eventually our system at the federal level is going to collapse, and it's going to lead to the balkanization of America. You know, empires don't last that long. In America, even if you just look at continental United States, is effectively an empire, and at some point it's going to collapse. I mean, because there's nothing in, like, lately, as the bonds that we've held so dear for 200 years are becoming ever more loosened, and we don't even have the same, you know, things that we all agree upon anymore. I don't think that the American system will be able to survive. And in the same way that the British Empire fell apart and the Roman Empire fell apart and the Mongol Empire and all of this other stuff, where they fell apart because they, you know, disparate groups didn't agree with the other disparate groups, I think it's likely that that same thing will happen to America. Especially when you have this basically all of the signs of corrupt, dying society, like politicians that can get away with stuff and other politicians that can't, and all of the bullshit. Like, it's not going to be able to continue to go on. So, yeah, I mean, and especially when you saw like this whole the George Floyd, Derek Chauvin trial thing that's going on. When
speaking of corruption, dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. Speaking of stupid politicians, Maxine Water going, if we don't get what we want, we're going to need to be more confrontational, basically starting on and literally telling the same people that sparked, you know, the riots from last summer that caused billions of dollars of damage to be more violent and confrontational, to the point where the judge, when he saw that, because they didn't sequester the jury. So the judge, when he saw that, went like, yeah, hey, Maxine, you realize that you probably just fucked over this entire trial, because even if found guilty, the defense can go and appeal and show that you said that and have the whole thing overturned almost instantaneously.
Justifiably. She literally crossed state lines.
Because they were threatening fucking riots. She was basically threatening riots.
she could cross state lines to go up and incite, their rhetoric and just promulgate violence. And I let me ask you this: what do you think is going to happen to her now? Honestly,
nothing. She's got to get a jail-free card if I'm a black woman.
I'm very curious to see what's going to happen.
She did that for all 4 years of the Trump administration and got people to attack their political rivals, and nothing has happened to her. And she's gotten reelected, multiple times since then. And it's still, it's absolutely insane that people like that can still behave like that and continue to get elected in states like California and New York. It seems that the only states where people actually care what their people do are not named California, New York, Oregon, and Washington. Everywhere else, they have some kind of accountability, and it's insane. It's just insane. That's why I think they need to start putting pictures on ballots, like to show a picture of the person you're voting for. Because I'm pretty sure the person that ran against Nancy Pelosi last time was a black dude. And it would have been absolutely hilarious where like all these people that are like voting D because it's against racism to realize that they have to like put a check next to the rich white bitch instead of a check next to the poor black guy. Because along with pictures, it should have their net worth, and like who they own stock in, and that to me that should be required, because then you have to make the conscious decision of, yes, I'm going to vote for the person, the white dude that's worth $100 million with a D next to their name, instead of Kim Klacik, who's a kind of poor but hot black chick, like. Because racism, which is primarily the thing. And it's like, dude, what?
The black woman that pulls herself up by her bootstraps.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. So anyways, talking about corruption, you want to talk about the trial, since we haven't been able to talk about the trial at all?
I mean, I have followed it a bit, but it's absolutely... It's stupid. They've made good points on the defense. They've made good points on the prosecution. I think it's undeniable what is going to happen, and I think it's also undeniable that it doesn't matter what happens, nobody's going to be happy. Either he gets convicted now because the jurors got names have gotten out there, and so if they don't convict him, the jurors will feel threatened, and then it will get overturned because of the stuff like that and what Maxine Waters did and all of that and all of the things that have happened during that. So then we'll get riots then, or if it doesn't happen now, riots will happen now. So I'm just waiting for it to be like, yeah, riots, woo, again. And it just boggles my mind that it's, our definition of these people's definition of justice isn't actually due process and innocent until proven guilty and all of that stuff anymore. It's we get what we want or we burn down the country.
Oh, yeah.
Which to me, that's where it's starting to get insane, because it's not, I mean, and the dumb thing is, at least on manslaughter, they might actually have been able to have a convincing case against the guy, just off of the evidence from that video. But they probably won't actually have convincing evidence for, murder, third and second degree murder. And then it's also going to be like this guy, because he's got, clean record and all this kind of stuff, probably would only get near 20 years of 25 years of jail time. And then they can use that as a way to go riot, even if they do convict him right now, because he's not getting the death penalty or he's not getting life behind bars. And, no matter what happens, this is going to be an excuse to go riot for these people. But what I think is super funny, and you've kind of already seen it in Minneapolis, like it was like day 1 or 2 of riots, and then the National Guard got called in instantly. Whereas last year, when they were trying to get Trump out of office, it was like, oh, several weeks of rioting and burning down half the city, and then we'll call in the National Guard. It's like, you know, last year I was sitting there saying this, like all these people that are sitting there thinking it's Trump's fault, and like, oh, the Democrats wouldn't do this, and they're calling Trump a fascist. It's like, no, if it wasn't an election year, the National Guard would get called in right now, like just like they did back in when Ferguson happened. You know, it's like they have just as much of a vested interest in protecting the city and the economics of it, which you guys are ruining, as anybody else. You know, they just, you know, it's like getting stepped on. Instead of it being a brown steel boot, you know, instead of being a black steel boot, it's getting stepped on with a rainbow boot, and that's supposed to make it all the better.
Rainbow's a pretty bunch of colors. It's
like, you know, it's like the old joke of like, oh, guess it's a she/her that's dropping the bombs now. Yay! Because, you know, the first thing Joe Biden did when he became president was put troops back in Syria.
Oh yeah,
he was dropping bombs in Syria before he was getting things passed for the stimulus.
What's funny is, like, I just feel like it's been, people make, you know, say Trump's presidency was like a crazy 4 years,
but the only reason it was crazy is because the media made it crazy.
Oh yeah, it's other people that made it crazy, that over exacerbated everything. And honestly, it's mind-boggling, like, in relative comparison, like how normal it was like just 4 years ago to now. I mean, we're like, what, 2 months in? We're 2 months in.
Yeah. And they're already trying to return to the Obama era, to putting on the kid gloves with the media and all of this kind of stuff. I mean, and one of the things that I saw that was on social media that disgusted me was this post from, I forget, it was like some news agency, but it was this, they were talking about how, like, oh, how much calmer the news, the press briefings were with the one gal, the press secretary for Biden, and like all these people, like, oh, it's so respectful, so great, and I'm just sitting here reading it, and I made a couple comments. It's like, the only reason it's so great is because the press aren't acting like rabid animals like they were with Trump. Like, but from day one under Trump, the press acted like disrespectful rabid animals. So yes, it's so much better because the press aren't acting like children.
Exactly. It's rough.
You know, but oh no, and then it's already happened a couple times where some of the more the outlets with a little bit more integrity, or the right-leaning outlets, ask hard questions of her, and they get threatened to be kicked out because how dare they? I'm just sitting here like, really? When it became a constitutional crisis, when Jim Acosta from CNN had his press credentials revoked after he fucking manhandled a woman with a microphone. But he couldn't get kicked out, but you guys can talk freely about kicking out Fox from asking questions to the president. You know, the largest news agency in fucking America might get kicked out because they asked you questions that are hard to answer. Like, dude, fuck off.
Oh, it's crazy. Oh, Project Veritas too.
Oh, I've seen a couple other things. They found like oh, speaking of that, did you see the whole Bounty Gate thing? Like, was finally, you know, like they were like, oh yeah, by the way, guys, that was disproven. But I saw so many people online, they're like, Trump was letting our soldiers die to the Russians. How dare? And then it's like the corroboration was like, hey, this media outlet said it, and we say it, so it's true. It's like, no, you guys are lying sacks of shit. And I don't care that basically all you're doing is parroting something that somebody inside the CIA said. Go find fucking proof the way you used to.
Anymore. It's not how journalism goes, bro, anymore.
Yeah, but now, like, the whole Bounty Gate thing, which was a huge thing that was thrown against Trump during the campaign is proven false, and it's like, bruh, like at some point, like I want them to like no shit actually be responsible for the stuff they say. Like right now, it should be legal. It should be a legal option for for Trump to come out and sue all these people that ran with that story, especially, or at least be able to like go in and figure out if they knew if it was fake or not. Because I'm pretty sure that's one of the things that Project Veritas got, was that, yeah, we knew that was fake, but we did it anyway.
Mhm.
But it's the whole New York Times versus like Sullivan or something from back in the civil rights era that set the laws so that people couldn't just sue the shit out of like small media outlets for this kind of stuff, or for different things back then. But it's under the same guys now, and I think the rules need to change because these guys are just becoming propaganda arms, and all it's doing is driving us insane.
Been like that for a while. It was funny. I was watching an old episode of South Park because I got HBO Max, and South Park is the greatest of all time, even to this day, in my opinion.
They had like 5 or 6 seasons that were kind of bleh, and then they went back to making fun of the real world, and it got funny again.
I was watching a couple of the older seasons, and it was just it was like I think season 6. They're making fun of like the invasion. They had this one episode where they made Osama bin Laden like a Looney Tunes cartoon with Cartman, and it was just funny because they were just like making fun of CNN and like like the media, and like at one point Stan's mom is just on the couch, and Stan's dad just kind of walks in and is like, Sharon, you've been watching CNN and freaking out for like the last like 2 days. Do you want to turn? She's like, no. Just hypnotized by it. And I started laughing as soon as I saw that.
Manufacturing consent and craziness, dude. That's all it is. And they know it.
It was just,
if they hadn't, been on board with invading fucking Iraq, we wouldn't have declared war in Iraq. But all these media outlets, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, were all about it, so we did it. They've got no integrity anymore.
Oh,
just zero.
It's crazy.
In my opinion. I mean, like, at least Fox still has Tucker Carlson on, who is able to call out everybody, but like somebody like Tucker Carlson, they don't have that on CNN. They don't have that on MSNBC or any of these other freaking places that say, or like ABC that says that they're kind of, oh, we're neutral, but they're really not. It's very, very funny.
The only neutral source, Tim, and that's it. Done.
Tim Pool? No,
I'm just kidding.
I stopped watching him as much as I used to. Just because watching all the political stuff constantly was driving me insane. It's
nuts. It's very draining.
Well, yeah, like I'm also one of the people, like, as much as I want to know the shit that's going on, I've pretty much decided where I'm going to be, politically for the next several years until I see something big happen. And so all the little details that I was following for a long time don't matter, because guess what? I've also gotten off of Facebook and don't need to argue with idiots that post stupid memes anymore. Because one of the things I found is, like, when I talk to people on Facebook, some of my friends that are like, fairly well, are intelligent people, when I say, hey, this was a lie, this was bullshit, and Gus like, oh, well, I wasn't really following it, I just thought it was funny. It's like, so you're posting a stupid political meme that you don't actually know is true. Okay, I'm done. I'm just there's no point in talking to people whatsoever on Facebook anymore outside of the cave. But I just don't even go on, because then I scroll through people's shit and it just pisses me off.
Yeah, no, I got you, man. I feel you on that. That's why it's hard to. I don't know. it's hard to find enjoyment in anything anymore these days.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's why I've just kind of dove into my school stuff now because I've got the next year to learn how to be a programmer and stuff like that. So I'm getting balls deep. Oh, because all my classes for that degree have started.
Yeah, I gotcha. Congrats
so
on that.
It's gonna be real fun.
I just read a bunch of old history books and then just play some video games, play some of the old Maddens. You know,
I got a book series that you need to read. I think you'll really enjoy it.
It's called.
Well, it's kind of known as the Southern Victory series.
Interesting.
But basically, the premise is that the South wins the Civil War because the North doesn't win the Battle of Antietam because it never happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes it from there all the way through World War II, where the South wins the Civil War, or as it's known in the book, the War of Secession, because they don't win the Battle of Antietam. Robert E. Lee's special orders to go around McClellan and get up into Pennsylvania that were captured and got given to McClellan, which led to the Battle of Antietam, which gave Lincoln the ability to be like, oh, okay, we won. By the way, Emancipation Proclamation, which kept England and France, who were basically right about to jump in on the favor of the South in order to get their cotton back, cheap cotton. It kept them from doing that. But if the Battle of Antietam doesn't happen, they come in and now they're the South's allies. And then the first book is like a war 20 years later because they try and buy. They go to buy parts of Mexico because Mexico's a pile of crap at the time. Just basically the same things that were happening in real life history happen, and like at the time, it would have been like 1880s. Mexico did try and sell us parts of their territory to get money, and we said no. So in the first book is a war that happens because the South, the CSA, buys it. And then the second set of books, the first three of them that I'm reading now, are about World War I. And of course, the CSA is an ally of French and of France and England, and then the USA becomes an ally of Germany because once they get their ass kicked in the Second War, they go to take a whole bunch of advice from the German Empire. So then it leads to the First World War where, okay, now Germany wins because the other people don't have the support of the Americans. And, then the American fleet ends up engaging a whole lot of the English fleet in a lot of cases. And then, that rolls on into the same type of thing, basically the Treaty of Versailles, but instead of it being like France or England, that becomes not the Nazis. It becomes the South because they get the stab in the back thing that, the Nazis use against the Jews. Well, they have this against the black folks in the South because they're basically during the World War I thing, a communist revolution among the oppressed black people in the South rises up and takes away a bunch of the resources that they would have needed to fight World War I. So and then basically there's a big copy of like Operation Barbarossa, and then the South loses, and then they get folded back into the USA.
Gotcha.
But it's really cool because, like in the first book, Lincoln is a main character that you follow, and Teddy Roosevelt is a main character that you follow, and Custer is a main character that you follow. And then in the second book, Teddy Roosevelt's the president, and Custer is still alive because the Battle of Little Bighorn never happened, and he's a general in trench warfare in like the Midwest area, and it's really, really cool, especially if you're just kind of a history nerd and you understand how like the flow of World War I went.
Mm-hmm.
Which I listened to all of the Hardcore History podcasts on World War I like twice. Because like history should only be told in Dan Carlin's voice, in my opinion.
Oh my God.
hardcore history.
It's very fascinating and it's very deep. It's very
Oh yeah, but he does such a good job. Like of making you understand and feel like what's going on. And like here, basically, if there's multiple sides to something happen, he talks about both of them without picking a side. So you kind of get the idea of how everybody felt. And it's awesome. I love hardcore history, dude. Like I've also listened to all of the Supernova in the East. And that's one of those ones, like, even though I've heard all of that and like Blueprint for Armageddon and all that stuff, like I could listen to it more than once.
Well, it's like when he talks, he comes from like a. Because I think if I learned anything when I like read history and I learned about history and I learned all the minute details that I possibly can, I don't know. It makes it difficult to pick sides at all. Like it makes you forces you to be as objective as possible. Like anyone that truly
there are very few times in history where it's the good and evil that we think of with World War II and the Cold War and stuff like that. You know, very, very few times in history where it's like that. So when this like especially World War I, because the only reason why we think of Germany really as bad and evil is because of what happened in World War II, and then also the incidents that happened in Belgium as Germany went through, which when compared to other things in wars or even things that the English and the French and we like us have done was really not that big of a deal. But yeah, like I'm a big fan of what the German Empire was before they lost World War I, because they were a huge hub of arts and science and culture, and you know, if they had not lost, like they would have most likely been the dominant world power and not America. Like we would have been a big economic power, but we wouldn't have held the same cultural power that they had.
Interesting. I definitely want to read those books now.
Yeah. It's Harry Turtledove is the guy who wrote them.
Harry Turtledove. All right, I'll keep it in mind. It's either that or I read the Austin Powers novelizations, which I've been trying to find left and right.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I realized lately that if they were to make Austin Powers now, he would have been frozen in the 90s.
Dude, that'd be pretty. Oh, God. I feel old. Oh.
Right.
I don't want to think about that. Just him and like grunge powers.
Right.
That'd be pretty awesome.
It'd be hilarious.
Is there anything else you want to talk about in this segment, Shmeet? Or
oh no, do you got anything that you want to go over, homegirl?
No, we can just end this right now and then just regroup and see if there's anything else to talk about.
Yeah, we'll see if has Kyle said anything about his car situation.
No, and for those of you who don't know, we were supposed to be joined by the wonderful Kyle,
the mad dog of these podcasts.
He's running a little bit late. Got his dumbass. His buddy got his key stuck in the car. Yeah, it's a long story. They're gonna break into his own car, smash the window. Hopefully he gets here. But as of right now, what's up?
No. I said hopefully he gets here.
Hopefully he gets here. Well, anyways, this will end this segment. I'm Wasabi,
and I'm Smee.
And have a grand day, you guys.
And this is the Brothers Cast.
Brothers Cast.
Brothers Cast.